entrepreneurs, and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us. I know you could be a million places, so we're so happy that you stopped by to visit with us today. Getting the Edge is brought to you by Edge Media Hub, business community and media solutions. We've been around for quite some time now, almost 8 years. It seems crazy. Time goes so fast, especially when you're having such a good time. But so excited to be with you each and every week, to share stories and to learn from one another. Edge has become the pit stop for amazing business owners, community leaders, and executives, professionals in our community to share their stories, and not just their successes, but their failures, their trials and tribulations, and different situations where they've overcome diversity and challenges, and we can apply and learn so much from each other. I talk a lot, that's for sure, but I've learned when to be silent and to listen. I already know what I know, so I'm just honored to be here and to learn from everyone else. To find out more about Edge Media Hub on our website at edgemediahub.com, you can check out our resource articles, resource center, resource library. Wow, I've wanted that for so many years, and we finally have all of the articles from all of the issues over the years in one space, and even beyond that, they're a little bit of everything. And great community leaders that have participated, from the amazing Moez Lamayam from USF to Santiago Corrada and Visit Tampa Bay, and the list goes on. So many amazing people sharing so much. In fact, really excited about one of the upcoming issues or articles in the upcoming second annual celebration of women. Excited to have Mark Cantrell as one of our contributing writers. He's the CEO of the Florida Orchestra, and that I think he'll be in journalism someday or writing. He is so talented, and he wrote just an amazing article on what we learn from leadership. And all of us go through something at some time. We can maybe lose a parent, or we lose a loved one, or just the pandemic, whatever it may be, and yet we still have to lead our companies, our organizations, and our team, and often we don't want to talk about those things that what we're dealing with or going through, but by sharing those stories, it can touch us all. So Mark, thank you so much for this amazing article, and I cannot wait to share it with everyone else. And Mark's not the only one. We have a lot of great editorial coming up in the upcoming issues. So again, if you're not already subscribed, please do. Make sure that you are registered to have your custom printed copy delivered directly to your home or office. So you don't want to miss this one for sure. I feel like everyone is better than the last, and I'm really excited. So again, for more information, check us out online. And otherwise, we'll get right to it. It's so excited to be here today. Thank you to our platinum partners that allow us to be here. I should say that. Thank you so much to Alltrust Insurance, Pilot Bank, USF Muma College of Business, and Visit Tampa Bay. We wouldn't be here without you, so thank you. I'm honored and so optimistic, and every time I have a guest each week, I get even more inspired, if that's possible, and even more filled with optimism, but especially from my guest today. So Tim Marks, President and CEO of Metropolitan Ministries, is with me. And you are like one of the epitomes of optimism and hopefulness, hence the shirt,
well,
for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Kelly. I can talk a lot about that today. To me, this word hope, I learned about hope talking to a mom back in 2007. I met her at the holiday tent. We gave her a bunch of food and toys, and about a month later, I asked the head of our outreach program if I could meet some of the clients again to see if it made a difference.
Right.
I thought we had given her commodities, a turkey, a little onesie for a 1-year-old. And she said, we gave her hope. And ever since then, it wasn't a marketing slogan. It's what our clients say that we are able to do. And I say that word we. It's not Tim Marks. It's Tampa Bay's Metropolitan Ministries, and it's Tampa Bay giving back to bring hope to folks that maybe have lost that hope. And we saw a lot of that this past summer where we know we have a lot more work to do in our community.
Yes, we did. But it was great to see so many individuals come together, and wow, that was amazing. And I know it was hard on Metropolitan Ministries and many of the nonprofits that we have here. Just from what percentage did your needs go up?
It was in the thousands of percent.
Oh my goodness.
Thousands of percent, where we might have 200 families a week come for a food box. We were having 400 to 500 a day coming for a food box. And then there were people that were struggling with rent and utility assistance. This was before all the moratoriums were put in place, and they didn't know how they were going to be able to pay their rent or keep the lights on. And we went 3 times as many families were helped. About 2,100 families were helped with rent assistance. But the key thing was, normally we would just have a nominal amount of money to help somebody with their rent. I'm talking like maybe $100, $150. We had $2.1 million that we were able to distribute
oh my goodness.
to families in
and what
crisis.
a difference. I can only imagine.
And none of that was budgeted, right? None of the extra food was budgeted. None of the rent assistance was budgeted. It was made possible by this very generous community that we're talking to today.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the community made that happen.
Oh, so that wasn't something federal that came to you. That was the community.
That was the community.
Wow.
A lot of additional federal dollars eventually came into the system, but right off the bat, all of that was really through private donations.
That says a lot too
It's a great community we live
about
in.
the donors that you have, and about our community.
Yeah.
I was honored to learn quite a bit about Metropolitan Ministries. Early 2020, when we had the honor of including you in our not-for-profit issue. And I will tell you, it was great to get to know you, and you, like so much of the other amazing individuals, you just fit so well with the nonprofits and the organizations that you represent. And in fact, my daughter and I, driving in, I was telling her the guest that we had on the show today, and was just, saying it's just so interesting. I know she gets so tired of hearing me talk, but it's so interesting as we share stories. We don't set out like Tim at 20 years old did not set out knowing that he would ultimately come to run a nonprofit and have these feelings, and care so much like you do today. But each step we take forward leads us ultimately, to where we are in our passions, if you allow it to. But it's so well fitting. I mean,
well, it fits today, but like looking back, you'd say like, how did I ever get here? And if I go back to the 21-year-old Tim Marks, I'm an electrical engineer, and I'm going to go work for the phone company. Most people don't even remember what the phone company was,
right?
But I worked for Michigan Bell. And I was designing networks, digital networks, before there was anything like the internet. And I was building networks for Ford Motor Company and General Motors, and now I'm helping to be a part of rebuilding people's lives. And
well, talk a little bit about the transition and where that came from, because like you said, that was never you didn't sought out to lead and to take care of so many people. So how did that happen?
So a lot of it comes back to my parents. My dad was an immigrant from Yugoslavia and then immigrated to Windsor, Canada. But he grew up in real poverty. He had a lot of strikes against him. He was of one ethnicity, living in a village where everybody else was of different ethnicity. He didn't follow the state religion. His father immigrated to Canada to build for a better life, but he was really a child being raised by a single mom, and there was 5 of them. So real poverty, like barefoot in the winter poverty. And he would always tell me that a bad day in America was better than a good day in the old country, because America allowed him to work. Never made it past the 8th grade, but he worked in the auto plants, and he was able to provide for us. And then myself and my brothers, we
and there were 5 in his family, right? Not in you had.
I had 2 other brothers, and we all were the first to go to college between any of the other relatives. But we stayed at home. We couldn't afford to go away to school and go to a dorm. But back then, you could actually go to school and be able to afford it in such a way that you didn't take on a lot of debt. But long story short, I get my education, I get a job, I'm working, it's a stable environment. I would give to nonprofits, or I'd give to faith organizations that we supported as a family, but I would never be caught dead inside a homeless shelter. But one of the things that we as an organization, when we started, and I started taking on different leadership, to do team building, we would do volunteering. So at the winter time, we would take our corporate work groups out and we'd go do volunteer experiences. And it's those volunteer experiences that I remember how good I felt after volunteering. And it built community within my work groups that I was leading, and I also felt good about it. Fast forward, I'm living in Boston, 9/11 happens and it shakes the entire country, right? But it really shook those in the Northeast corridor, because those first two planes left Boston, and they were folks that were working in the tech sector. Well, I worked in the tech sector. My wife was a leader in the tech sector. Some of her investors were on those first two planes. Some of the families were in our neighborhood. We didn't know them by name, but we knew the homes where folks that were on those planes. And we were reminded that life is short. You just don't know what tomorrow brings you. And
even whereas some of the other parts of the country may have been trying to heal, you can't necessarily, because you're faced, again,
right
the homes, these people that you may not have known, but
Right.
just you do know.
Right. So there was the business leader Stephen Covey. He wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that number 2 habit is to think with the end in mind. Well, that's also consistent to the way a lot of people in faith live their lives. It's not just for this life, but they're trying to make a difference. And for me, it was like that resonates, to think with the end in mind. And so I was very successful. My wife is very successful, but I walked away from the corporate world. I went down to the Boston Rescue Mission. I said, I've never worked with an addict in my life, but I've worked with corporations. Maybe I could help raise money for you. And one of the things that you soon learn when you're in a nonprofit community is that you can't raise money for something you don't believe in. And so the way you believe in it is you get to know the clients, you get to know the individuals. And I found myself getting involved with changing people's lives. I had a couple clients run the Boston Marathon. We got a lot of publicity for that. We got a shoe deal and all kinds of publicity with New Balance. The thing that I'm getting at is, what I realized there is anybody can make a difference in a nonprofit by bringing the passion for what you believe in, the lens on how you see things, and your experiences in life. Anybody can make a difference. Because if an electrical engineer can be the CEO of Metropolitan Ministries, then anybody that's watching this can take whatever they're passionate about and they can make a difference as a volunteer, maybe as a board member, or financially supporting it, or going to work at that nonprofit, and sometime when it's right for them.
I love that. No, and I had the pleasure of putting your story together, and if you didn't already know some of this, that means you haven't read the issue, which means you should make sure you go back and do. Actually, the digital issues are there free. You can look at those online, or you can even purchase some of the prior archived issues. So, just saying. Tell me a little bit about how you then came to Florida. So you're in Boston, and then how'd you end up here?
So my wife was a CEO for a company up in Boston, and she was approached to run a company down here in Clearwater. So we come down here, and I had checked out a couple of nonprofits online, and I checked out Metropolitan Ministries, and I saw that they were working with families. And I thought, families? And we're all from a family.
Right.
Families are never just as good as they look on Facebook. There's always something going on in families. There were things going on in my family, and still is, So
we all have our issues.
Well, and so it's like handling a family dynamic in crisis. That's really interesting to me versus what we were primarily working with up in Boston, which was recovery programs. So I went down there and was interested in volunteering and offering help. And at the time, they said, well, we wouldn't really like you to volunteer. We'd like you to come on full time and help us in the advancement role, which was to help engage the community in support of Metropolitan Ministries. That was back in 2006.
That's right. So it's been quite a few years, and it has evolved and changed thanks to you. And so and I know you do not take credit. It's all about the team.
Right.
But it's still we're inspired by leaders, right? And those that and I think that's what makes such a great leader. But tell us some of the changes then that you've experienced over the last 2006, so what are we at, 14, 15?
14, yeah.
So how have things evolved? Or how did you become in now the role of president and CEO? Like, tell us a little bit about the transition of that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like what I said before, and that is you can't fundraise for things that you're not proud of or believe in. And so as an engineer, we like to solve problem solving. And so I can't counsel anybody, but if our counseling team is struggling in an area or they're lacking in resources, well, tell me that story so I can tell that story to the community.
Right.
And everything that we do, right, if we're effective, is telling stories. And by getting to know the kids on our campus or the stories of some of these moms who have been abandoned, and then also many are dealing with the past history of domestic violence, they need everything and they need a fresh start. And so hearing their stories helped me take on a greater role and responsibility, but also trying to fix the things that need to be fixed. So like we had a shelter that some families were staying for over a year. These rooms were built for short stays, 260 square feet.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine staying in a 260 square foot room?
Temporarily, you might be able to handle it, right?
It's better than the streets. It's better than sleeping in your car, but it's not right that you stay there.
Especially depending on how many are in that square footage.
Right. So kind of seeing and getting feedback. And that's one of those kind of like learnings. And people will that know me know that someday on a T-shirt you'll find this word feedback is a gift. When you're giving the feedback, you're hopefully helping somebody get better. When you're receiving that feedback, it's easy to get defensive, right? But if you just take it for a moment, just say, okay, this is a gift.
Don't take it personally.
Right, don't take it this is a gift. This is going to help me be better. Or Metro is going to be a better organization. And so when you hear from a family and you hear their situation, okay, we can do better. And so we believe in process improvement, that we can be better today than we were yesterday, but we can be better tomorrow than we were today. And
that's a great philosophy.
Our first line of our vision statement says, we will be America's most effective caregiver. Will be. It's a vision statement. So it's not, I don't even know when we'll be that.
Right.
Or if we ever were. Maybe we were. But the attitude is, we can always get better. And I think that has led to a lot of the growth and change for Metropolitan Ministries, is constantly listening to our clients. What are they feeling? What are they seeing? Also looking in the environment, what's going on in the economy, what's going on around us, and how can we serve more families and in more communities? Because you can only build so many rooms of shelter. So we started looking upstream. If you can solve a problem upstream, like keep a family in their home versus having them lose everything just to move into a shelter.
Like more from a proactive perspective.
Right. So we've got proactive programs out there where we're case managing as many families in the community as we are on campus. And it's always better to help stabilize somebody before they come into the campus. But the campus is better than the street. So there's all these different levels of it's better than, but what you try to do, give the right measure of care to the right measure of need.
And I can imagine that's different for everyone,
It
right?
is.
There's no one size fits all necessarily. The needs, when you're talking about counseling and with these people still in their homes, are they in a sense where they like are borderline losing something, or they're dealing with something? So you're kind of helping before things get out of control.
Exactly. And so many folks just need a plan and know what resources are available to them, and just something to help stabilize the situation. So there's case management, which is kind of like the project managers for your life. Here's the plan we want you to implement. Counselors deal with the trauma that you've gone through and help you process through that, or they may support you in recovery. Primarily, most of our community work has always been case management, which is helping folks navigate and stabilize. And if they want to go in deeper services, we'll point them in the direction to get counseling and other programs.
One of the things was, as I was able to learn more about Metropolitan Ministries a couple of years ago, was just all the different things that you offered, but the fact that even the campus, in a sense, the grounds that you're on, it tell us a little bit about that, because it serves a lot of different purposes. You have a school that's connected with it all. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so you're caring for families, and when mom's in survival mode, education is not a priority. They know it's important, but they're in survival mode. And so they might be in one school 1 week or a different school a couple of weeks later, or they're couch surfing. And so we built we were the first homeless shelter to have an elementary school, and at that time it was a charter school in the nation, because we saw that, we want to break the cycle. We want to help mom, but we also want to get these kids back on grade level.
Again, looking at the longer picture of things, the bigger picture.
Right. I mean, we've had kids come into our school that were, quote unquote, on the spectrum, but when they come out, they're testing on the gifted scale. They just needed some stability in their life, and we partner with the school district of Hillsborough County. We built the school with private dollars, but all the teachers work for the district. So now it's an official school of choice. So when you're in the shelter, no excuse for your kids not to be in school, because you can walk right across the street and go to school. When you come out of the shelter, you can still attend that school. Anybody in Hillsborough County can attend that school. So you can maintain your education in that school if you'd like. So that gets kids back on grade level. We have an early childhood education center, which helps get kids ready to learn. So that's from infant to 4-year-old. And I do mean infant. We've had moms come into the shelter, have their baby at TGH or at St. Joe's, right? And their child's first night out of the hospital is at a homeless shelter. And so we want to care for that baby during the day. And why are we doing all this during the day? It's so that mom can work the plan. Because, you know what it's like to take care of a child. So you're taking care of a child, but you also have to take care of you, and you have to put these plans together.
And it's all working towards getting you out of the situation you're in now and having a better life, for you and your family.
Right. There's 3 components to our mission statement. We try to live those out. Alleviate suffering, which is where hunger programs and shelter comes into play. Promote dignity, which is how we treat you as an individual.
Right. Non-judgmental.
Right? We say, not what's wrong with you, but what's happened to you.
Right.
Because usually what's happened to a person is manifested in their actions. So getting to know them, it doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps frame, well, what happened to you? And that insight will help us work with that family through that situation.
And then taking responsibility and I guess owning that, and then being able to move past that, because you can't move past or heal until you acknowledge and accept and accept.
Right. And develop
and
plans.
Forgive in a sense. Forgive yourself and then others, whoever, and then try to move forward.
Right. And that moving forward is the last pillar of our mission statement, which is to instill self-sufficiency. So self-sufficiency in our mind comes from having a job in an affordable place to stay. So promoting dignity also includes education. So education from the infant all the way to the adult. You can get your GED on campus, but we have parent-child classes, we have life skill classes, financial literacy. The whole idea is to move towards self-sufficiency, all these different components.
Yeah, and even just going back to the, that woman saying, you gave me hope, and I think that's almost more powerful, than any of the resources we can provide. I guess providing the resources gives them hope, but when you look at what's on the other side of hope, it's like doom. There is no future, there is no way out of it. So what are you going to say?
Yeah, because we had recently just brought in John Maxwell to come speak.
Oh, really?
And he's just a dynamic
leader,
right? He wrote a new book called Change Your World. Well, and there's a lot of things in our world that needs to change, but he's talking about change your world. Right. Whatever your world could be within the confines of a community or family. But he has this amazing quote in the very first chapter, and it's from St. Augustine, and it says, hope has two beautiful daughters. Okay, that sounds nice. Hope has two beautiful daughters. The first one is anger with the way things are. And the second daughter is courage to do something about it. And we think about hope, it's like, we always put it as a very positive, but it comes from, well, there's something that's wrong, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And then courage to do something about it. And I just think that's given me a whole new kind of insight to hope, because that's what we need, I think, in our country, is the things that are not right. They anger us, but then we have to have the courage to do something about it. And within all our lives, if we have the hope that we can be the change or work towards change, you've got to have the courage to do it. And that's where, at the end of the day, we always say we provide the environment where mom can succeed, right? But mom's doing the hard work, plain and simple. There's she's doing the hard work, and the hard work doesn't stop when she leaves Metropolitan Ministries. The hard work continues, and she's got to have the belief and the courage that things can change and be better, and that's what we try to instill.
And giving that roadmap, in a sense, is great, but then still having that option of just some camaraderie, in a sense, or being able to talk, because as, nothing's going to be completely easy as they start, because your old ways, old habits, old people, I can only imagine, depending on what the circumstances, they could still be around, and as we have family and society and different people, it's a matter of eliminating or getting out of those, and, I guess it's kind of like a diet. Somebody wants to go on a diet. They say it's not just, it's a lifestyle change. It's not even just like dieting. Being I was married and divorced by the time I was 20, and my oldest he'll be 31 this year. And, being a mom, I did thankfully graduate high school. I graduated in June and I had him in August. And I think, from having that, at that point, everyone's saying, all right, your life is over. You'll end up on welfare your whole life. You won't, but I think those kinds of words set me on a motion to, I didn't want to be that. I still had all these plans. I just wanted to do it my way. I knew my way was obviously more difficult, but I learned over the years that I had this internal optimism that drove me, and I thought we all had it, but then you get to a certain point and you realize that we don't, and that just means it's more important for you to help others that don't have that, so you lead them out of that darkness and into hope, or whatever that may look like, and anyway, I very much admire everything that you do, and how you help, and and how you refer to mom, and just I just thank you for everything that you do.
Well, I've learned a lot from my team, right? And that's what I try to do is listen and learn and adapt. It comes from a place of compassion and care for others,
and that shows.
But that the rest of it is just those dedicated workers that they went to school to be a counselor, they went to school to be a case manager, they dedicated their life. And what we have found is 80% of our staff and 80% of the people that work in social services have similar traumas or traumas in their life that somebody helped them along the way. And they came through that trauma, and somebody helped them, and they say, you know what, okay, now I'm going to get my degree, I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to help people. And that's beautiful, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure, if you're that staff person, that you've got self-care, that you're taking care of yourself, because you can have similar triggers. I think in those that work in recovery, that come out of recovery, it's really important for those individuals to really have self-care and discipline, because it's so easy to slip back into any of those demons that maybe...
Well, and all of us, even us as, where maybe we haven't had these experiences, but, you run companies and you lead others, and, we have different business sizes, whether, you have a smaller business or you're leading a larger corporation. and it's kind of like what I said in the intro to the show in the article that Mark Cantrell, the Florida Orchestra, recently wrote. He recently, unfortunately, lost his mom, but that experience reflected, he was able to reflect that when he lost his father at 18 and just had some of these experiences. But, we all go through this, but yet we have to lead. And there are so many different business sites and publications and platforms out there where you can get all the information you need on sales or marketing or, I didn't want to provide that. Sure, we can have some of that. We just had a tech show and but I wanted to really provide articles or, have us write about things that affected us to where, it is about self-care. You can be as wealthy as you want to be or as successful as you may determine yourself to be. But if you're not right mentally and you have all these stresses, you are borderline, who knows? Then people do start seeking out for alcohol or drugs or painkillers or whatever it may be. It's all of those things are
the whole idea for us in that self-care strategy is so that the best version of Tim Marks shows up. And then when I'm getting off kilter, having a safety plan that I can implement to bring myself back to center. And we ask all our staff to have a safety plan. And then we teach our families and even the kids in our programs. We have a teen program, and how difficult it is to be going through those teen years. We try to help our teens be able to self-regulate and have emotional intelligence and realize when things are not right, how to bring them back. But then also live our lives with values that we would respect each other, that it would be a safe environment, things like democracy and open communications.
And the golden rule.
That's exactly right.
It goes back to the basics, right? Of how you want to be treated.
Right. Exactly
I think often too we don't take the time to put ourselves really to understand other people or what they're going through. We talk about on the show like effective listening, or just really listening with the idea of understanding. And so many people are just so quick to judge and pass, and just make quick. I don't know. Everybody's going through something. And some more so and harder than others. Yeah,
I used to be more judgmental, and I've really tried to put that back and just let that, hold back. And back to this issue of, like, what's happened to the person. If you see somebody acting out, what's happened to them and what has caused that? Unfortunately, things like social media has made judgments more readily available, and we're going to have to learn and grow through that. I think I am hopeful for America. It's like it's been really dark and it's been difficult, and it will still be that way. But it kind of reminds you, like when you go through counseling, you got to get to the bottom, and then you can rebuild the relationships, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, humanity overall has definitely been hindered with all of the hatred, and I see a twist and a turn coming that I know will prevail. Yeah. And but it's going back, like you said, and starting from the ground up, we can't save the world today. No. I know we would both like to.
But no, I do think it's in little pockets, just positivity that we can move forward. Not we accept reality as it is. Right. But then let's be hopeful. Let's have the courage. We can be angry about things, but let's have the courage to change them.
Is that quote what life is 90% of what happens to you and 10% of how you react to it. Yeah. There's a lot to that. We all have things that happen. It's just a matter of how we react and deal. But obviously, our life situations, the things we've gone through, have taught us or led. We've formed habits that could be good or bad. When you talk about mom a lot, what are the percentages, like of families where you have the dad there too versus just mom?
So on our Tampa campus, we have 100 shelter units on Tampa. We have 24 shelter units up in Pasco, and the math is simple on the 100 units. About 90 units on the Tampa campus are usually all single moms. So they have that abandonment issue, or they had to leave the situation. And about 80% of them have experienced some sort of domestic violence. Dads are welcome on the campus as long as they're there with the kids. If they're with their kids, they're welcome to be there. We want to keep families together. And so, again, about 10% of our population
Gotcha.
are, and we have some dads where there's no mom involved. We have a couple of those right now that we're caring for. And then in the community, there's similar numbers, but it's primarily single moms that are trying to navigate and deal with this.
You probably have more families, I guess, as people have lost jobs, and you have those families probably still trying to hang together. But even those financial difficulties and all those things they can deal with, that's got to make it hard to keep that love and family together. In a sense, if we all I can only imagine the different things we all have, all the different expenses and families and.
Yeah,
there's just so much to it.
There's a lot of complexity to it, and to some, like victims of domestic violence, they lose their support network because they have to be hidden. They can't be out and about, and so how do you rebuild your life without your support network?
And being in fear in some way of their safety.
Right. So that is one of the things that we're hearing that has kind of gone, if you will, under the cover of COVID. That is happening because we're all locked down, and a lot of these moms are stuck in situations and there's no place else for them to turn. Those numbers are starting to spike. We're seeing some of those numbers spike also with drug addiction. But for us, when you think of the homeless guy on the street, that's your perspective of what homelessness is. For us, we think of kids. I mean, there's more kids on our campus than moms. And so these are children, and we've talked before about resiliency. Kids are resilient. They really are. And so having these programs for kids gives an opportunity for real change for the future. And if mom, the reason why these, you don't see a lot of moms on the street panhandling, because they know they could lose their kids.
Right.
So most of these moms are kind of hidden in the shadows, or they're doubled up, but they're not giving up on their kids.
Yeah.
And that's where we can come in and come alongside.
Well, the kids are kind of what keep you going.
It is exactly
the kids are what make it all, like, this is what you're doing it all for.
Right.
Even as, I can relate to that. It's all about your children and making a life better for them. And feeling like you have a purpose to uphold and fulfill as well.
Right.
But ultimately, you're in survival mode, and it's about the children. It's you've had some great ideas and ways to really raise money for the organization. Tell us a little bit about some of those. And is it out of the box?
Inside the box.
Okay, I was close.
Box.
Inside the box. That was just such a great idea, and it's been profitable.
It has. So social enterprise is another kind of catchword for, instead of just asking people to donate to you, leverage core competencies within your organization and see if you can turn those into a business venture. So traditionally, in a lot of nonprofit space, the thrift store has been kind of like the thing you think of. Well, you donate your goods and your items, the things you don't want anymore, and those items could either be sold or they could go to some of the clients that you're caring for. Well, Cliff Barcy came to me, who really changed our whole food program and had a background in food services, said, I'd really like to be able to do we were listening to a seminar, and Blake McCloskey from Tom's Shoes was speaking. Tom's Shoes,
I remember.
You buy a pair of ugly Tom's, no, they're beautiful shoes. You buy a pair of Tom's Shoes, and then he gives a pair of Tom's Shoes away. And he said, that's what I want to do. I want to do a meal for you, a meal for them. So the idea was that we would do a catering business, and it would be inside the box. And then the proceeds for that would help support our hunger relief programs. That evolved to a storefront when Bob Basham donated a storefront for us. And then that further evolved to being at the airport, which we're no longer at the airport because of COVID. We pulled back from that.
I see.
But we have maintained the catering business. But the real goal on all of these is create jobs as well. So our social enterprise, inside the box, I was just with the four lovely ladies as they were preparing 100 meals yesterday. And two of them had come through the shelter, formerly homeless, and two of them had come through our job training program. And so we have a free culinary job training program, which is associated with that. So, we create a pipeline where we're doing job training to work in the culinary field, and you could work at wonderful restaurants. We just had 2 clients find jobs at the top restaurants in town. And
from going through your culinary training. Wow.
And so that's a life change, right? That leads to self-sufficiency.
It's confidence. It's everything, right? Yeah.
And some of them we hired, and they work for us. So there's the job training component of social enterprise. There's the employment component where you can be employed for us. And then there's the selling of the food. We never take donated food and sell it. This is food that we purchase the food. It's a cost of goods sold. We purchase the food, but all the seasoning, the prep work is done by our staff. So that's what Inside the Box is all about. So anything that we can do that we have, like I said, a core competency and experience in, then that's something that we'll look to say, how can we turn that into an outward-facing program? We have something called Affinity, which is a new initiative where all these things that we've been talking about, emotional intelligence and trauma-informed care, is, well, if it helped us become a better organization, well, maybe it could help some of our frontline teachers or some of our folks that work in the judicial court system, folks that are in high stress and traumatic situations. So we're bringing that program out to individuals with this new initiative called Affinity.
And I like it. And you have another ice cream and ice. What?
Oh, I forgot about donation. Yeah, donation. It's a hilarious name, right? Donation, because we deal with donations, but it's D-O-U-G-H.
No, I love it. It's very clever.
That's out in Carrollwood. We're on Del Mabry in the Noble Crest strip mall, and that's a wonderful, fun initiative where it's edible cookie dough flavored to all the different types of flavors, and then great ice cream. And that's another way that we also do employment services for folks that have come through our program.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned, you've had to scale back, with some of the things with COVID, but hopefully as we get through this year and, as we kind of turn some corners, you can spread out and provide even more of those opportunities, I'm sure.
We'd love to do that.
Yeah. What are plans for the future? Like, well, even just for Tim Marks and family, just overall.
Well, we're very excited. Just earlier this month, we just opened up something called Sable Place. And Sable Place is 112 units of affordable housing in the Mango-Seffner area, I-4 and 75. Beautiful Class A apartments, but at about a third of what it would cost to compared to market rate. So you can get a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment, 1,200 square feet, for under $1,000 a month. And you could get those based upon it's income based, but from $550 to about $950 a month is your rent. And what's wonderful about Sable Place is it's all about affordable housing. We moved 80 families in a month into this facility. Wow. We had a grandma who had a successful career at TGH and then fell on hard times and became a mom again, right? So a lot of grandmas become moms again because they have to care for the little one.
They're taking in, their children's children.
Right. She went from sleeping in her car. This is a woman who had a job, then lost things, fell on hard times, was sleeping in her car with her granddaughter. She went from sleeping in her car to this beautiful 2-bedroom apartment, which is what it's all about, right? It's like,
oh my goodness,
it's so much more dignified than coming into a shelter. But sometimes you need the shelter until rooms open up, or you need the shelter because you don't have any income, or you have to start from scratch. But here's a grandma that was able to move into this beautiful facility. There's a splash pad in the backyard, and there's fun things for the kids. But the beautiful thing is we have case managers right on site. So, there's property management, which means you're going to take care of the property, and it's going to be a good facility. And then next door is Metropolitan Ministries, and we have our case managers there. Why are we there? In case you need us.
Right.
We're not going to be in your business if you don't need us, but if you need us, we're right downstairs. So the idea is you've got this beautiful place to stay. It's affordable. Respect it.
Right.
Enjoy it. It's going to be the best place you could ever live. And then if there are difficult times or difficult days, come see us. We're here for you.
Well, because I think often we go through things in our head. Something may not even happen to them that day, but it's just sometimes we all have that happen. So having someone to talk to, or just even being able to go and say, I'm having these thoughts, and
Right.
somebody else being able to say, everyone does.
Yeah.
Or just...
Or I lost my job.
Right,
All
or
well,
anything.
now what do I do? I'm in panic mode. Well, let's help you find a new job.
Right.
We're not going to just leave that for you to figure out. We'll help you figure that out. If you want our help, we're there. If you don't need our help, that's fine.
Or I can imagine, I don't like the job that I have, but I have this beautiful home.
Yeah.
Now what do I
How
do?
do I-
How do I find something else?
Yeah.
Or is that an option?
Yeah.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
One of the challenges with affordable housing, I don't mean to make it all about that, but if you make too much, you can't live there. So that's the other thing is that I'd love to see change. I'd love to see policy changes where there's more workforce housing, so that folks that are working and growing, and they're growing in their jobs, they don't get penalized by being a success.
Right.
Because right now that's a challenge for some of our families. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get more affordable housing and workforce housing into the community. I've been honored to work with the mayor, and she's asked me to work with a lot of folks on one of her pillars, which beyond transportation and housing is workforce development. And that's the other thing, that we've got to create pipelines for people that are in disenfranchised communities, or not in the act of searching for work because they've given up, is to get them trained and retrained and get them employed. And so we're working with lots of other partners, but the city has a real strong priority on that. And I'm working on some of those initiatives just to help make sure we're having the right conversations. And I'm not a workforce development expert, but I know that what our families need, and I know what a lot of the families that are in the community need, and that is, to be able to participate in the workforce, but they need that training, and they need it to be efficient and effective so they can get to work.
Then you look at property values, and just, I was watching something the other night that were talking about, the real estate prices right now.
Yeah.
And, and granted, there's some areas that are, doing even better than others, but ultimately, it's, I was just you can't find I don't know how these young families survive without, especially, we talk about minimum wage or what
That's it. No, there's no easy answer.
Yeah,
but I know the city is committed to like 10,000 affordable housing units. The county has Hillsborough County has a $10 million trust fund for affordable housing to buy land and to support projects. We're seeing it in Pinellas County, where there's a tremendous focus on affordable housing. So that's moving forward. We're seeing it in Pasco County with senior housing and other affordable housing. So it is a key initiative for our community. But you're spot on in that this is such a hot housing and rental property market right now that more and more people are going to get squeezed. And some families, even though there's an eviction moratorium, if your lease expires, landlords don't necessarily have to re-up, and that's one way that they can filter people in and out of their properties, and we're starting to see that.
Well, but if you think about it too, and again, I mean, you try to look at both perspectives of things, as far as that goes. But if you think of when this started and where we are now, and somebody that might have been in a lease for a year, that if they've frozen things, but you've got a year of rent, you're going to have. You're not going to have the resources to do so. Nor also you've got this, person that's probably have lost money on, that's a nightmare in itself, just with people behind, and then how do they catch up? And I will say with some of the federal and what the federal has handed down then to the states and the county, and
there's a lot of money in the system right now where money can go directly to the landlord. Last year, a lot of the money, any money that we did for rent assistance at 2.1, we were always in concert in conversations with the landlord. So the money went directly to the landlord. The city of Tampa, everyone that's watching this in their community, if they're struggling or know somebody is struggling, there are rent assistance programs that can directly go back many months for folks that have been impacted by job loss and COVID.
Good to know. Yeah. And that is, one of the, it has warmed my heart to see, the communities coming together, just so many others. It's, and even those that, we didn't see a lot out, it just, we all want to make sure we're all okay. And that's a great feeling to be in a community like that, where we feel like we're all looking out for each other.
Yeah.
But do you work closely with any of the other nonprofits as well? Like where you're then referring, where you may not be able to do something, or co-collaborating?
Absolutely. So, like just at the holidays, when we went well over 40,000 families, which was like the previous year, I think it was like 28,000. So we had like about 12 to 15,000 more families we cared for. We had 65 partners, 65 different partners in 6 counties. But then on the supply side, Feeding Tampa Bay helped us with all the fresh produce, which we don't have access to the fresh produce, so they helped us that way. We're always working with the school districts, with social workers coming out of the school districts. The 211s, they need to know what we offer so that we try to keep them informed as to what we're doing. There's an initiative here in Tampa called the Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative, which is a collaborative that the county and the city are working together, and they work together with nonprofits, and something they call the continuum of care, where we're all working in certain areas where we can make a difference. The Children's Board of Hillsborough County is a great collaborator and funder to help us get things done. So yeah, collaboration is the name of the game, and deeper collaboration is needed now more than ever. Yeah. One of our newest initiatives is called Inspire Hope. And the Inspire Hope initiative is, there are, in Hillsborough County, the child poverty rate is 18.8%. Of the population.
Seems high.
Well, there are 5 zip codes in Hillsborough County where the child poverty rate is 40 to 50%, more than double. 5 zip codes. Same story could be told in Pinellas and Pasco. What our initiative is, let's get into those communities and try to instill hope in those communities. That may be a focused approach with our meal programs. Instead of just random first in, first out, you come to our front store or you go to our website to get help, a purpose-driven strategy to go into those communities. It doesn't mean if you don't live there, we're not going to help you. Right. It's just that we know that in certain communities, it's dire. And so let's get into those communities. And so how do you do that? You have to collaborate with the churches or the nonprofits that are in those communities and just come alongside them. Mm-hmm. We're not here to displace anybody. We just want to come alongside and say,
and kind of complement, if we can add to what you're doing.
Add value. If we can add value, what are your needs? We don't want to pretend we know what you need. We'll come alongside you. And so anybody watching this that's involved in the work in some of these hard-hit communities, we want to come alongside and help. That's all we want to do. The community has given us resources, and we want to bring those resources. Because if we don't stabilize those communities or the families in those communities, those are the families that come to our front door living in their cars because they've lost everything. So what we want to do is work upstream and stabilize families throughout Tampa Bay.
And these children that we keep referring to are our future generations. So, we're just about out of time, but I can't wait to be able to even do more of, I feel a need to give back and help, drive people towards their purpose and help people realize that they're capable of more than they are. But I think the more I have accepted that this is maybe that this is my path, that this is, because I'll, like you said, will be, I'll put it out there. This is, part of my path, but I had to kind of also, it took me a minute to realize that I'm not responsible for everyone. And I almost felt like I was taking that on in a sense where, and I don't know why homeless bothers me more than anything, but like I can drive down the street and if this man is on the corner, it really bothers me. And for some reason, I guess something inside of me, I couldn't get a new car, or I couldn't do well, or I couldn't do this until I can make, I felt guilty. How can you live a certain way? And you have all these people that aren't. But then I had to realize that, okay, so I may have dedicated the last 10 years of my life to make my life better and those around me, and I can help everyone else do that, but I don't have control over whether they do it. So my whole point is, how do you accept that responsibility in a sense that you're for that, but yet you can't change and help everybody, and you know what I mean? Because I know you do want to help, and there are going to be the situations where you can't. And
yeah, the person you're helping is going to want to
right.
Want to make
and maybe
change.
They wouldn't be there if they didn't want it, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. So what we specific to the person on the street, we have a new initiative that we launched a year ago called Brigade, where we're going to those folks instead of waiting for them to come to our front door. We're going to build relationship. Everything that gets done that's positive is built through relationships.
Absolutely.
So we're
I
going
agree.
to build relationships, and over time, we're finding the ability to take people that were on the street and put them into beautiful housing.
Because aren't they? If they're an older gentleman and it's late in life and they're still on that street, they've either fallen through cracks through life, or they've just not abided by anything, and perhaps they had alcohol or drug abuse. But it's like they're at the end of that cycle, maybe but there is still hope for them too.
Yeah, I mean, every situation is different.
Right.
What we're trying to do is really help those that want to help to get off the streets. And those that are on the streets, we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe.
Yeah, and you can't help everyone. You don't have control over their actions, right? You can only do what you can do and give them the tools, and hopefully. Right. And if they don't get it this time, hopefully, you're not going anywhere, right? You'll always. Thank you so much, Tim. Right. We could talk forever. I know that. Thank you. Please check out and find out more about Metro Men if you've not looked into them in the past. They're just such a wonderful organization. Please consider volunteering, donating. They have many things that they could use, I'm sure. So check out more at metromen.org, right? Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us for Getting the Edge. Make sure you check out Edge Media Hub online, subscribe to our magazines and to our newsletters, and until next time, never stop dreaming. We'll see you soon. Thank you.